Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk all about the brand new WeCreat Lumos. So if you have been looking for a new laser, this might be something that you want to check out. So this laser is a galvo style laser, which means that the laser head does not move. Now in this case, as I have it set up right here, I do have an accessory attached to it that is a slider. And that means that the material can move with this laser under certain conditions with that slide accessory. So this laser has both an infrared and a diode laser installed. So it's a 3-watt infrared and a 10-watt diode. And the infrared is a red light laser, whereas the diode would be a blue light laser. So what does that mean? So the diode or blue light lasers have some restrictions. So clear acrylic, glass, that type of thing, maybe even some light colors, you might struggle with the diode laser. The infrared laser opens up tons of engraving options, and it'll do really fast engraving, and it'll do pretty deep given that it's a 3-watt IR laser. So yes, it's still going to have some restrictions. However, there are like over 300 different materials that this machine can engrave and or cut. So you can check out the full list of materials on the WeCreat website, and I will link to where you can purchase the WeCreat Lumos in the description below this video. I could never test all of those materials in this video, so I'm going to test a selection, and we're going to talk about the laser and the accessories and how to use it. Now, WeCreat did send me this laser for free, however, all projects and opinions are my own. So first let's take a look at the laser itself. Like if you just wanted the base model laser, what comes with it? Start by unboxing the laser, and in the box as well as like inside the laser, there will be some things packaged inside. You'll get a USB cord, a power cord, a couple different tools, so a screwdriver as well as a hex key. Then you'll get the adapter as well as the hose in order to vent the laser. Then there'll be a couple different pieces you can use on the inside of the laser for engraving as well as cutting, and we'll take a look at how to use both of those. And then there will be a couple of pieces of wood in order to test the laser out. So in addition to that base model laser, you can also add on a variety of accessories. So you can add on a rotary accessory. You can also add on a slide accessory that opens up a wider range of materials as far as size. And then you can combine those two, which I'm not going to do in this video. So you can combine the rotary with the slide and do things like a long baseball bat engraving. If you want to see stuff like that, let me know in the comments and I might do a video in the future. You can also purchase an optional air filter accessory, so you can vent this out a window, or you could purchase that air filter to use this indoors and filter the air. So with all those accessories, that means there's a variety of modes that you can use this laser in. So a standard mode is just going to be the laser, and you are just using the bed that is in the laser to cut and engrave. You can also pull this top part out, add a cone around the outside to protect your eyes, and you can use this in handheld mode. So that means that you can use it on larger projects. My example is going to be this box where I did an engraving on the top of it. However, you could do it on like a table. Think of very large things that would not fit in this small laser. The handheld mode opens those options up for you. And with that rotary accessory that I mentioned, we're talking full wrap engraving, and I am going to show you a full wrap engraved tumbler within this video. And I checked, and it did say that this machine can do a 40-ounce Stanley tumbler. I do think that you would need the rotary accessory and the slide together, and we're going to talk about that mode in a minute, to do that full thing, because this was the maximum sort of height that I could do with the one that I'm going to show you in this video. Then how I have the laser set up right now is slide extension mode. So I have my slide extension installed, and that means I could do longer projects or multiples all laid out on this slide, and the slide will move back and forth as that laser operates. And then that fifth mode is going to be to combine the slide with the rotary to do long things and also turn them. So the example is a baseball bat, but I'm sure you can think of other long things that you might want to engrave that are cylindrical. And I did see a note that there are even more accessories coming for this laser, so I am very excited about the possibilities with that. So now I talked a little bit about this laser, let's see it in action. So let's set it up and let's make a super cute bookmark as our first project. To set up the WeCreat Lumos, you will need to add the power cord to the back, as well as the adapter in order to vent your laser. In the back, you can also plug in the USB cable in order to just set up the laser. And it did come with an adapter as well, so if you have a Mac, the adapter comes with the laser. Finally, you want to add the hose to the adapter, and you will want to vent the other end of the hose out of a window or add it to an air filter. For laser safety, this step is very important. Then also for safety, the WeCreat Lumos has this door that you will keep closed in order to protect your eyes while the machine is operating. Now, if you do anything where you're going to have to leave this open, you would need some kind of protective safety glasses to operate the laser. And then you do always want to make sure that any materials that you cut or engrave with the laser are laser compatible, because some items can be toxic when cut with the laser. Now, I do have a full video on laser safety, and I will link to that in the description below this video. I did want to note that the laser itself will pull out of the top of the Lumos. So if we open this cover, first of all, there is a cap on the laser. You will want to remove that before operating the laser. So when you add the laser to this base, you do want to really press it down until it locks into place. Once you have the laser inside, be sure to turn the screw inside of the enclosure in order to tighten the laser down. Now, you can use the hex key for this as well, and it's also easy to tighten with your hand. So I went ahead and connected the laser via USB. You only need to connect via USB one time, and you can go ahead and add your Wi-Fi information and connect via Bluetooth from then on. Now, this area of the laser inside just depends on what you're making, what you'll add to it. So you could leave it open and you could say engrave on the top of this table. You could add this piece for engraving, and it has holes all through it, and you can add these pieces and just screw them down with the thumb screws to locate your pieces, so you can locate multiple pieces in the same exact place. If you need to cut anything, you're going to add this piece in order to perform the cuts. And then when you're ready, you would add your material to this and close the enclosure. So now let's take a look inside WeCreat Make It at a project idea. So first, I am going to cut and engrave on one of the pieces of wood that came with this laser. So I'm going to add the wood to the laser itself. Go ahead and open up WeCreat Make It, click import, and import your file. So I'm going to make a bookmark in this case. Go ahead and resize it to whatever size you would like. And then for this one, I'm going to engrave the just one more chapter layer and cut the outer layer. So I went ahead and changed my settings to reflect that. Then I'm going to go ahead and close this and turn this laser on using the button in the back. Now, you can hear it start up. It makes a loud noise when it starts up, but there is a noise while the laser is on and running. And for this basswood, I can use the blue light laser. The red light is your infrared laser, used for more like metal engraving. So now let's open this up and take a look at the framing feature, which is one of my favorite things about this type of laser. First, you'll want to focus the laser. You can autofocus the laser by clicking that within the software or holding down the AF button that is on the back of the laser. As an alternate, you can manually focus by using the knob to move the laser up and down. And what you're looking for is for the two dots to meet. And once those two dots overlap, your laser is focused. Once the laser is focused, you can refresh, and you can actually see the material that is in the laser. Once I can see that material, I can move my design around to better utilize the material. And then I can click framing. So if you click the framing button, you'll see exactly where the design is going to go on your material with a light. This is extremely helpful. I can actually see where the material will cut out. And I could move the material at this point if it's not in the right location. Once I'm ready to cut and or engrave, I can just shut the cover and then click start. I did want to note on the start screen, you can also do an outer contour framing. And that will actually be the entire outline of your design will frame out. Whatever type of framing you like best, and different types might work for different projects. Then as you can see, this one's going to take about 4 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and click send to send that to the Lumos. Once you've done that, you'll need to click the start button at the top of the machine to start the process. Once that's done, you can just lift up the cover and remove your finished project. Then you just pop out all the middle pieces and the piece itself. Now I'm going to do some more projects with the flat piece like this. We're going to take a look at some more options with this laser as well. So with just the standard mode and just adding the items to the laser, I was able to cut and engrave on wood. I also did an engraving on some slate, and I engraved some leather as well. Now all 3 of these were with the diode or blue light laser. Now I'm going to move on to engraving on metal with the red light or infrared laser. So if you want to do color engraving on metal, you can do that with the red light laser. And you will want to turn on color engraving to do that. When you turn this on for the first time, it is going to tell you to run some tests. In order to do that, you're going to click Toolbox and color engraving test to run those test pieces. The first test piece will give you some reference numbers and it'll engrave in some colors. Now, I liked the yellow and the orange the best on this particular material, so I chose the yellow number, and that prompted me to engrave a second grid where I can choose my speed and power to get the color that I want on my metal piece. So now I can add the metal piece itself to the laser, and you'll see I set this up with the guides so I can get it in approximately the same location every time. I did want to mention that your blank needs to be close to the center, so it needs to be where those 2 laser beams come together in order to get your thickness measurement. So always be sure that the part you're going to engrave on is where the 2 lasers meet and where you focus your laser. Go ahead and turn the machine on. And for this one, I'm just going to use a name for my engraving, and I do have that as a fill engrave. I do have the red light laser picked. I added my color ID as well as the settings indicated by the test grid that I already engraved. I'm going to go ahead and click framing, make sure that everything is in the right location. Then close the cover and go ahead and click start to engrave. So here are the engraving results on 2 different pieces. This first one is just with the regular metal settings, and it looks very white once engraved. Then I played around with those color settings, and I made one in comparison here, and this one looks yellow almost to me, or perhaps even an orange yellow. So these effects are really fun, and you can play around and get different colors on different types of metal, and I really think you're going to enjoy playing around with the color metal engraving on this machine. So let's say I wanted to engrave something large. Maybe it's something that can't be moved, or maybe it's like something like this wood box, and I want to put something exactly in the center, and it just won't work. It won't be able to engrave on the top of this entire box. However, there is an option with this machine that you can use for large items or even like tabletops and things like that. I started by loosening that screw on the inside, and now I can lift the laser portion out of the machine. There is then this accessory that will protect your eyes, and it's magnetic. So you're just going to drop this onto the protector. Then around the back, there is a USB cord on the cover, and we're going to connect that. And then that same power cord for your laser, we are going to connect that to the back as well. Just plug it up in order to turn it on. And then where it says laser flat, we're going to click and do handheld instead. I'm going to use the blue light for this. And we are going to engrave into wood. This is a darker wood, so I'm going to pick a darker wood here. And sketched my image and changed it to a fill engrave on the results. Now I can add that handheld laser right to the middle of my box here. So sort of looking at the preview, I went with a power of 100 and a speed of 100. And then we can go ahead and click start. I can click framing with this on. However, I can't really see the framing with this cover on. So I don't find it super useful. So I'm just going to send it and hopefully it works okay. So we'll go ahead and click send. And as always, you press the button on the top to start the process. Now with this in this mode, there is a fan on the back that is sort of venting out. However, there is no way to attach the hose to this. So I would do this outdoors or in a well-ventilated area. Once it's done, we can just pick this up and we have a gorgeous engraving on wood. So the engraving itself is absolutely gorgeous. I did want this to be opposite. So I wanted the book on this side. Whatever it looks like on your screen, that is the way it is going to engrave. I kind of had it backwards in my mind. That's okay, you can learn from me. And then I do feel like I got it a little crooked. I found this hard to locate because I could not see the framing with that shield in place. So I did find that a little bit difficult as well. And then you do need to, like I said, operate this in a well-ventilated area because there is no way to attach your hose to that cone. But otherwise, this did a really great job on this wood box. The next accessory I'm gonna cover is the rotary accessory. So you'll get the rotary accessory itself, another piece to help you level your tumblers. There are a variety of chuck pieces and screws to do different types of tumblers and different types of objects that are cylinders. You also have a tool to loosen and tighten the screws, a tape measure, as well as a level. Now I did have to loosen the screws on this long piece and just slide it onto this piece here to assemble it. So I plan on using this tumbler with my rotary assembly. Now, I tried a few times, it's not wanting to stay with the pieces that are on here. So I'm just going to add some other chuck pieces with the screws that are included. Once those are all on there, tightened up, you can twist to sort of loosen this up. Now I have that all the way up. I have tightened this up and now it feels pretty sturdy on there. So I'm happy with that, even without this other attachment. I don't think I'm going to need it. And you do want to make sure it's level. So you may have to play around with it at this point. And of course this one, it's tapered, so it won't be level in all areas. And I generally try for this larger flat area to be fairly level as I turn it. And I'm going to say that is pretty good. And so now this is ready to add to the laser. Now the rotary assembly itself, it has a plug, and this plug goes into the back of the laser, and it does say rotary beside where you put this. I went ahead and added the entire assembly to the laser. I did want to point out that there are holes in this base on the rotary assembly, so you can use screws to attach it to here. I did use it without attaching it, didn't have any issues. The first thing you want to do is to measure the tumbler perimeter, so all the way around. Now I did this about in the center, not all the way at the top. And then within WeCreat Make It, you want to change to laser cylindrical for tumblers. Then go ahead and put your perimeter in and the diameter will calculate for you. I did change my material to a stainless steel tumbler in black. Then I went ahead and uploaded my image, cropped and rotated that image. And once you zoom out, you can see the plus or minus 80 degrees. So I wanted to make this where it's going to fit this and wrap all the way around. So I am going to go ahead and edit my image and remove 2 of my leaves. Once I've done that, I click confirm. Now this fits way better onto this surface. And I do want to sketch around these because I do only want the outline. And I'm going to remove the original image. Now because this leaf sticks out a little further and this one does, I can go over the 180 degrees slightly if I wanted to. And that will ensure that I get that full wrap. So I'm going to have this as a line engrave, Now with the rotary installed, when you click framing, it will actually sort of rotate the tumbler and show you where it's going to engrave. Now it's kind of hard to tell with inside of here, so I had to do this several times, but I do think I got it pretty close to right for a full wrap tumbler. And I do have it about as big as you can get it height-wise. Maybe it may be a little off, but I feel like I'm pretty close to as big as I can get there. Now I also have my laser dots about right in here, and I went ahead and just manually focused those in that area. You can also click 3D preview and sort of see what this is going to look like, and you could even change it to a stainless steel tumbler in black and get a better idea of what it's going to look like on your tumbler. And then you will also notice, I mean, I can shut this, kind of, yeah, so I can shut this. However, it is open at this bottom here. So while it will vent some out my window, there is going to be some fumes that escape from around the edges. Once your tumbler is done, lift the cover and then remove the tumbler from the rotary. A close-up look at the engraving on this one. So I did it with some fine lines on this tumbler, and the tumbler is one of those that's kind of rainbow once you engrave in it. And this is sort of part of my experiments with rainbow holographic tumblers. And I must say, I really like the way this one turned out. It's subtle, but looks really, really great with the fine lines engraved into that holographic. Final accessory is this large auto slider. Now this is to do multiples at one time. It's also to do larger projects because this is going to move and slide to utilize more area. Now it comes basically assembled. You will need to add the little L-shaped pieces to your base in order to install this. A little tricky to install. There is an arrow here, and that indicates where this first one should be located. So you just sort of line up the arrow with that first screw, and then you just need to make sure that the one in the back is in place. So I just want to say that I had this installed way too far back at first. You should be able to put your hand back here. So this bracket should be on the outside set of holes, and then the bracket in the back should be in location to line up with the slide itself. Now I'm going to do a piece of acrylic and make that same bookmark I made earlier in this video in a larger size. And what's great about this is that these pieces can actually hold down your material. So this is a larger size piece of acrylic, and you can just tighten these pieces, and that way this acrylic won't move. So you can lift them up, it sort of sits on top of the edge of the material, and you tighten them up so the material will not move in either direction. Then within WeCreat Make It, I'm going to pick the auto slider. Now you'll notice here that the auto slider can also be used with the rotary accessory. I'm not going to do that within this video, but I might do a future video on that option. I have my file loaded. I am going to cut this out of blue acrylic, and I have engraved lines as well as cut lines in this one file to test. Then I do want to go ahead and manually focus on my material. And there are a couple of cords that go into the back of the auto slide and the back of the laser itself. After everything's hooked up and I hit initialize in the software, I can actually hit framing and see exactly where the project will be. And I could then move the project if I needed to. Once everything is how I want it, go ahead and just close this down. Now you don't want the screws to hit your cover, so you'll want to raise it just a little bit, but at least close it some, and press the button to start. You'll see that the slider moves along as the laser operates. The engraving on the acrylic worked great. However, I can now say that the fire protection on this machine works well because it caught fire as I was trying to cut. So I was unable to cut acrylic with this. However, this was as large as I was able to go with the same file with just the flatbed. And I could have went even larger, right, with the slide installed. It just goes to show you that you can go way larger with the slide as long as you have a large piece of material. Okay, so now you've seen this laser in action. You've seen quite a few projects. What is my overall thoughts, pros and cons with this one? So, pros with this style of laser, the huge pro that I have is that it is so small and portable. So this is perfect for those of you that want to do craft fairs, personalize on site. If you are really into engraving things and personalizing them and want to do that just on the fly at a craft fair for people, this machine will do all of that. It also is super fast, so it is great for production. I love the Galvo style lasers and how fast they are when engraving. And with this one being that 3-watt IR and 10-watt diode, you can expect really fast results out of it, which is great. So that's a huge amount of pros, right? And then the accessories, like let's just face it, rotary, yes, but the slide. The slide opening up those larger projects and the ability, if you wanted to lay multiple projects out and it sort of move along and do multiple projects while you don't have to unload and load the laser several times. The slide, I feel like, is a game changer with this one. And the fact that you can combine the slide with that rotary just opens up tons of possibilities that I haven't seen out of another laser. And then I did really think that the color engraving on metal was super cool. Now, did it take me a while to figure out? Absolutely yes. But I think if you get it dialed in on a specific metal type that you want to engrave all the time, I think you can find your color options and start offering more of those options to your customers, or just have more options for engraving for gifts and things like that for family and friends. Overall, I found this very, very easy to use. The accessories were easy to use. Everything worked really well. Don't have really a ton of cons, quite frankly. The only con I would say, you saw that on the acrylic, it definitely caught fire when I was trying to cut it. I was unable to cut that. So I do think you might run into some issues. And Galvo lasers that I've used in the past, I have had that same fire issue with some materials when cutting. Engraving, this machine is a workhorse. Cutting, you might run into some issues. And then I did mention that the cutting portion of this laser is a diode laser, which is a blue light laser. That means you will not be able to do clear acrylic. So if you are searching for that machine to do clear acrylic, this laser is not going to be the one to do that. And then the WeCreat Make It software, I do find it extremely easy to use, but it's not real robust as far as designing things. So I ran through some things off camera just trying to make some different designs with their elements, and I found it a little clunky as far as the design elements. So just keep that in mind. However, for the projects that I made, I either used text within the program, which worked great, or I uploaded my own designs. And some of them I uploaded pings, other ones I uploaded SVG files, and all of those worked great when uploading my own designs. It was just when using their elements that I had a hard time with the software, and like basically narrowing down the options was one big one. And then the software did crash a few times when I was trying to use their elements. So keep that in mind. However, the software overall is very easy to use when I used my own images or text within the software. And then I do think a con is going to be the size of the projects you could do with this one. So it's still going to be fairly small even if you add this slide onto here. It's going to be fairly small project wise, like you couldn't do some huge projects. So do keep in mind the size of the projects that you want to make before purchasing a laser like this. And then finally, I just want to mention that although this does have a handle at the top, I would be nervous to lift it up by the handle and perhaps not have that screw tightened or not have done that correctly and this thing fall. So I keep trying to move it by lifting up the base, and it's just not very convenient. So that was the only thing I'm not sure I liked. The handle placement, I would have rather seen a handle on this outer piece as well, so that I could have used it instead of just using this handle, because it just makes me a little bit nervous because I don't want to wreck my machine here. So that's about it for the pros and cons. So my overall review is that this is a great machine. And I really think that if you are looking for this Galvo style laser, this could be an amazing option, and it has a ton of features that I haven't seen before. So if you're looking for things like colored metal engraving, if you're looking for things like the slide combined with the rotary to engrave baseball bats and amaze everyone that you're able to do that, then this laser definitely could be something that you want to look into. Now, from June 20th to July 22nd, 2025, they are offering up a deal. Basically, you do a deposit of $50 and you unlock special pricing. So you can save up to $2,000 with your $50 deposit if you were to get the bundle of everything with the accessories, which is amazing. And then also with that deal, you get that magnetic cone that you put on this piece. You get that for free, and you get their premium membership as well, free for 12 months. So let's just say you only want the laser itself. You don't want any of these accessories. What does that look like? So the laser itself, retail price is $23.99. If you were to make that $50 deposit, you do get a savings off the laser itself, and it brings it down to $11.99. So it's still a significant savings for just a $50 deposit if you only want the laser. Now, if you want all the accessories, there are different levels and different packages, but again, you can save up to $2,000 and get all of those goodies with that $50 deposit. So be sure to check that out. I will drop a link in the description below this video where you can see the deal and decide if it is right for you or not. I hope that I've helped you make a decision on the WeCreat Lumos. If you have any questions about this machine, or you have other projects you would like to see me tackle with it, drop down in the comment section and let me know right now, and that way I can schedule out future content. Now, if you liked this video and it helped you, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.